Sound, Mind, and Body is supported by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/inbound.
My main advice is if you want to be an entrepreneur, you really just can't say no. You can't give up. You will go through hard times. I guarantee it. And especially if you're in your 20s. Your 20s are hard. They're a lot of fun, but especially as an entrepreneur, but I think everyone, that's really where you figure out who you are. And for me, it wasn't even until these past 2 years where I think I've started to understand and love who I am. So, you got to go through those dark times to get to the other end. Just keep going.
Hello, and welcome to Sound, Mind, and Body, a podcast where we interview inspiring people about the many different ways to stay healthy, balanced, and well of mind, body, and spirit in today's crazy world with a dash of woo-woo. I'm your host, Sheila Melody, and today we're going to discuss entrepreneurship and how young entrepreneurs are paving the way to a new definition of corporate culture. My guest today is one of those young entrepreneurs, Jordan Rothstein. Jordan is the CEO and founder of KingTide, an award-winning digital product development company with offices in Los Angeles and Mexico City. KingTide partners with early-stage entrepreneurs to help them take their idea to market through a highly collaborative workshop model. KingTide's roster of clients includes Netflix, ESPN, Adidas, Nike, and Beats by Dre, among several startup clients spanning the financial tech, blockchain, healthcare, and entertainment industries. Jordan is responsible for the overall direction and tone of the company, as well as the day-to-day execution of both the creative and technical sectors. An advocate of democratic leadership, he maintains a high-energy workspace and a company culture that promotes creative exploration, innovation, and collaboration. And this is just the beginning. I am so excited to have this conversation. So welcome, Jordan.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
And I just happen to know all that stuff I said about you, Jordan. I happen to know it's true, because my son, Michael, works with you.
He's our star employee by far.
Oh, that's so nice. So you're not just saying that, right?
No, of course not. I work 2 feet from him. Spend a lot of time with Mike.
He loves, I've just seen him grow, but what, he shares with me what you guys are doing all the time. And I'm just so impressed with how you're growing this company. And that's why I'm so excited to have you on. So you're a very young entrepreneur. You're even younger than Michael, right? How old are you?
I'm 29 now.
Oh my gosh. Under 30. Wow. So how did you get started? I mean, how did you accomplish this at such a young age? How did you get started?
Yeah. I think it kind of goes back. I have 3 older brothers, so with those guys protecting me, I was always a little bit more risk tolerant growing up.
Right.
I went to the University of Colorado at Boulder, studied entrepreneurship, finance, small business management. My plan was to go into finance and follow in my oldest brother's footsteps. But while I was there, Boulder's such a creative community. I started a t-shirt and apparel line called Fresh Life, and I was learning how to design on Illustrator and making graphic t-shirts and going dorm to dorm selling those, and then to all the boutique stores throughout Boulder, and fell in love with, business and starting something and creating something on my own. And, from there I learned, I needed to build an e-commerce site, so I learned how to code. And
wow.
Once I launched that and got my first site live, I fell in love with the technology aspect of it all. And a lot of my close friends and family needed help with their websites, so started doing less and less t-shirt design and more website development for friends and family. And then out of college, I joined another creative digital shop in Hollywood as their creative director. I was their first employee and really got a taste for entrepreneurship on a bigger scale and learned the ropes from them. And we grew that company to about 25 employees, and a lot of those companies that you mentioned, we worked with at that previous company. And after 4 years of learning the ropes and seeing, things I liked that they did as managers and how I differed a little bit, I decided to go off on my own. And a few people on the team joined me, and a lot of the clients came over with us. So we had a quick launch and grew pretty fast in our first year, but learned a lot along the way. And we've changed and evolved as a company quite a bit over the past 4 years, and love where we're at today. But it's really just the beginning for us.
So it's only been 4 years that you've been with King Tide.
Yeah.
And then King Tide, because are you into surfing and kind of named your company that and used all those elements? Is that what you did?
Sort of. I'm not a surfer myself. I had a pretty bad scare at a young age out in the water. But my creative director and one of the co-founders, he's a big surfer. But I've always loved the ocean, and the deeper meaning of king tide really sunk in with me. There's the low tide, high tides, and then the king tides, which come very rarely and are known for raising the water level in the Pacific Ocean. So that's sort of what we do. We work with our clients, we work with our team, and we rise together. So that's our tagline. Let's set sail, make waves, and rise together.
I love that tagline. Let's rise together. Yeah. Or we rise together. And it's so true. And that's like part of your core values. I read you also write articles on Medium.
Yeah,
so we'll put that link in the show notes. But I read your article about establishing your core values for a new company. And did you do this right away, or did it take you a few years before you said, hey, we got to get this together?
Yeah, that's the funny thing. I preach today that establishing your values, your vision, your mission statement is something that any entrepreneur or company should do before they do anything else. But for us, it took 2.5 years to realize that. And that's why we evolved so much, is we didn't really have a true vision. When we launched, we were offering every digital service under the sun.
Right.
We were a full service creative agency and marketing company. So we were doing social media, email marketing, online advertising, e-commerce, while trying to build mobile apps and websites. And those are all very different things. Mm-hmm. And, as a lot of other entrepreneurs preach, focus is the most important thing in running a successful business. So we took a hard, long look at what we were doing, what we were really passionate about. And at the end of the day, I love building products that have real world impact, and I love helping entrepreneurs realize their vision. So we reestablished our vision, our values. I think our values were always there, but they were never really written. Those values were a collection of everyone on our team's personal values. We had everyone write down their personal values, and then we talked about it, and we saw where they overlapped and made those our company values, and we live by them today.
I love that. And some of them include collaboration, transparency, work-life harmony, which is so important. Yeah. And, I believe that. So, you can work so hard, but if you don't have that balance, you're not going to get a lot of, you're going to have days where people get burned out. And then the simplicity. I love that one too. Simplicity. Continual learning. Again, it's just never thinking that you know it all. You know what I mean? Just continually evolving. Mindfulness. Love that. I'm all about mindfulness. You're developing this culture with your company, and most of the employees are all around your age or a little bit, just within that 5-year range, right? So you have everybody's in their around 30, Do you feel like you're developing a new culture of corporations, or is this something that's been done before? I feel like it's a little more human.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, but
I would say we definitely have a culture that we've developed that's our own. But I think as you look at, all of these startups, and especially in tech, that have really changed what culture is in the workplace, you see a lot of the same trends. There's working remote has become really popular, and some believe that eventually, it might be more common than everyone working full-time in the office. But, I think we're just riding that wave of what's to come and what's changing. And we're listening more to the employee and trying to give them what they want to live a healthy, happy lifestyle, because that's how you're going to get the most juice out of them. So
yeah, working remotely is a big thing, because it's like, do you get the same work out of people if they work remotely, or do you think they need to be in the office and you need to be like, focused?
At the end of the day, it comes down to accountability. If they have clear responsibilities, and they have the accountability, you want them to be accountable to themselves. So you let them sort of set what it is they're responsible for. We're not going to micromanage them and have them, put together their daily agenda of things they need to accomplish. That's really on them. And at the end of the week, if they're not accomplishing those, it's going to come out in the wash, and we'll see that. So communication, collaboration, and talking about what everyone's up to really makes working remote possible. And with the use of technology, you obviously have Slack, and you can communicate with people. You have Google Hangouts. You can get on video conferences, but I don't think it'll ever replace human interaction. So people come into the office at least 3-4 days a week, but I like to give them, a day to work from home, especially if they're feeling stressed out or overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm. And how do you, and same goes with because you have the Mexico City location. And so those guys, you've developed a rapport. How often do you go there, and how have they ever come here?
Yeah, we go down there at least 3, usually 4 times a year. My CTO, who's a little bit more involved in the technical aspect, since we do most of our engineering down there, he goes another 2 times a year. So he's usually down there 5 or 6 times a year. And we spend a week at a time down there.
And how did you get that place? Like, how did you even, find these people and develop a location in Mexico City?
Yeah, it was pretty serendipitous. My CTO, James Richardson, he's really, really talented. He came from Crowdfunder. Crowdfunder had an office in Mexico City, and they operated, autonomously. They were really set up as their own company, and they were funded by a government grant. And about 2.5 years ago, that government grant expired, and James was working with us, and he said, we have this team down here we'd worked with for a long time. They're, out of work. They're amazing. We should go down there. So flew down there, met with everyone, fell in love with the city, the culture. It's very similar to ours, same time zone. Obviously, there's cost benefits. So we hired those first 3 employees, got an office space, and we've grown it since. We have about 8 or 9 people down there now, and looking to bring on more.
So how is it similar to living in LA? I mean, what's the similarities and what are the differences?
Well, traffic.
Yeah.
No, Mexico City is actually one of the fastest growing tech communities in the world.
Oh, okay.
I don't think people, knew that, but also LA really wasn't a tech capital not too long ago. It was always, Silicon Valley up north, but recently Silicon Beach has really blown up with a lot of startups like Snapchat.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
So they have a great startup community. So a lot of development meetups, hackathons, stuff like that. So you can really get your brand out there. So it makes hiring and recruiting a lot easier if you pay your employees well. You have a good culture down there. Makes King Tide an attractive place to work. So, I love that. Mexico in general, I think, shares a lot of the same culture, as the United States. We're both North American countries, and we have a lot of shared history. So food and music, they speak English pretty well. We speak Spanish, especially in LA. So
do you speak some Spanish?
Yeah, a little bit. I can get by when I'm down there.
Cool. So when we're talking about, your Rise Together slogan, you do some equity in certain projects, right? That you find that you want to be involved with, helping them grow. So what kinds of projects do you take equity in?
Yeah, for me, I'm the guy who, if we go out at night and, everyone's talking about what's going on, right there in that moment, I'm always typically sidebarring with one person, hearing their $1 million idea, and I just love to engage in that. And I've always been passionate about that, more so than being a visionary necessarily on my own. I am a doer. I can take that idea and really put a brand behind it, build a product around it, and come up with a marketing strategy. So helping other entrepreneurs is what I fell in love with. And when I have those conversations and I hear about a product or a vision, or I'm talking to an entrepreneur that really has something special, we'll put our, team behind it. We'll put sweat equity in it. It will take some ownership. We can leverage the machine that we've built to get them to market and help them scale. And we have other great networking advantages with just the network we built in LA to help them raise funding or find strategic partnerships. So I think it's a win-win. It gets our team bought in. I passed that ownership from the company level down to the individual employee level. So we all share in the upside.
And when you make that decision, is it a company decision to decide to get involved with a company like this? Or do you
I'm pretty democratic when it comes to, communicating with the team. I'm transparent about which projects we have ownership in. Not always the specific numbers, but, usually the team gets excited about those partnerships. I think we all have a similar appetite for business and which companies stand for, a good cause. So,
do you feel like it makes the team feel more purposeful?
Yeah, definitely.
Working together, they're building this, company together. That's what I feel like I see.
Yeah, of course. We like to get everyone involved in every project, especially the big ones that we're building. Just the collaboration is really how we can create something amazing. If we're working in individual silos, you don't get that sense of ownership, and especially if you are tied to the long-term success of the business. So,
right.
It's really important. It's crucial for our model.
So what is the biggest challenge that you've faced in growing your King Tide?
Yeah, the biggest challenge, both professionally and personally, was just trying to manage too much with a lack of focus. You can't please everyone. So, when you launch and you're not really a funded company and you're just scraping to get by, you'll take on anything you can to make money.
Right.
And that led to just taking on way too many different services. And personally, I felt so overwhelmed because I was wearing, every hat I could: accounting, sales, marketing, design. I was still coding. So
wow.
It led to a collapse internally. And I really didn't show up for 6 to 9 months of trying to run this company. And, we started to see a decline in growth. The culture was suffering. Employees were leaving. Clients were unhappy.
Wow.
So we had to take a long look at what we were offering and, should we throw in the towel or should we give this one more shot? And saying no, and it wasn't really an option for me. I really believed in our team and what we could do. We had seen brands that we had worked with grow from selling nothing online to over $1 million a year annually. So we knew we could do it, but we just couldn't do it all. So
that's when you had to take a hard look and decide, what your core values were and what you were going to focus on, and not just, it's hard to do that as a small business owner. I know. I mean, even just, I have this strength training studio, which I also manage and I'm trying to grow. And it's hard to say, you know what, we're going to be a more of a high-end brand and we're going to charge a little bit more and we're going to give this really top service, and not, because people will come in and be like, well, I can pay this much, and I'd really like to come. And you're just like, in the beginning, I remembered being like, yeah, okay, come on in, but now it's like, I can't do this. I can't operate like this forever, so.
Yeah, especially when you have people's, livelihood on the line. We had
right.
probably 7 people in our marketing department. And when we decided we weren't going to be doing online advertising and email marketing and social media, we had to figure out what we were going to do. So we took a calculated approach, and over the next 12 months, we didn't just snap our fingers, let go of all those people, fire all those clients. We slowly and strategically let everyone know we're making a shift. We're going to head in a different direction. There's either going to be a seat for you on this new bus or there's not. And if there's not, we're going to help you find the next phase for you, whether that's, introducing you to other companies to work for or supporting you, during a job hunt for the next few months. So I'm very grateful that I was able to maintain positive relationships with most of those employees and clients that we don't really work with anymore today.
That's a great thing. So you also had a personal challenge that you decided to change in your life. And that was you decided to become sober.
I did, yeah. It was around a year ago, actually, from today. It was right around this time last year.
All right. I'm very interested in talking about this because you're 29 years old. And so this is I think this is a big story for people to hear. So, but first we're going to take a really quick break, and then we come back, we're going to talk about that.
Beautiful.
On the next episode of Sound, Mind, and Body, join us for a very fun 5 senses tastings with Kala Maxim.
I started wine tasting, learning about wine a little bit. And I love this idea of a flight of wine where you had 4 or 5 glasses where you could taste through a story of something, a vintage or a place or a grape. And I thought, I wonder if you could apply that to music, if you could actually taste with your ears and bring opera and country rock and jazz and baroque and whatever all together in this tasting format, which you would then pair with things people are used to tasting, like wine and cheese and chocolate. And the idea was to bring the 5 senses into harmony with one another. And so that was my kind of twist on the theme of tasting, is bringing sound out of the background into the foreground and then pairing to music and always presenting it live so that it was very much in the moment. Each performance you were privileged enough to see would be only for you and only in that moment. It can never be perfectly replicated. And it is very hard to communicate the value of an experience before you have had it.
That's next week on Sound, Mind, and Body.
Hey, it's Tim Edwards with the Inbound Podcasting Network and producer of Sound, Mind, and Body. Just the fact that you're listening to the Sound, Mind, and Body podcast tells us that you enjoy consuming your content through your ears. Now, if you're a podcast listener, you're a perfect fit to enjoy audiobooks. So for you, our listeners and official members of Sheila's woo-woo community, Audible is offering you a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial to check out their awesome service. Give it a shot. You've got nothing to lose. It's absolutely free for 30 days, and you get a free audiobook to keep even if you don't continue with the subscription. Support Sound, Mind, and Body by visiting audibletrial.com/inbound. That's audibletrial.com/inbound. We'll include a link in the show notes, or just click the Audible banner at soundmindbodypodcast.com.
Okay, we are back, and we're talking to Jordan Rothstein, CEO and founder of King Tide. And before we took the break, we touched on the subject that you had decided to become sober about a year ago. So let's talk about that story. What made you come to that decision?
I wasn't being the guy that I wanted to be, I guess. I was unhappy. I was working really late, drinking, and I was depressed. I had gone through a pretty bad breakup. I had lost 2 of my closest friends, one of which I was right before my eyes, and I had just kind of bottled that up. I never really got over that. And, I just felt that there were greater things out there for me. And I do believe, I had a spiritual awakening, and it was 29 and a half years of age, and that's Saturn's return. I learned about that.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's all tied to Saturn. And, my spiritual guru told me I had lost one of my closest friends from college in that same, span. He was 29 years old, and I think he didn't get the message. That was Saturn just pulling him right out of the universe. And I'm lucky enough and fortunate enough to realize that could have been me. And, Saturn had different plans for me, and now following a spiritual path, and my higher power has greater plans.
Wow.
It's a hard decision, and, it's minute by minute for me. It's day by day, and we slip and fall sometimes, but we get back on and keep going. But definitely the biggest decision that changed my life for sure. And I love living a sober lifestyle and focus on helping others and being of service.
That's really powerful. It's funny that you're saying that, because I feel like I'm in the second Saturn's return of my life right now. So there was that one when I was like your age. And then now it's happening again for me. Somebody just told me that, and I was like, wow, it's so true. It's just these big transitions are happening, And I never knew that you even thought that. Or who's your spiritual guru?
He's this guy, Peter. He was an Olympic swimmer, and now he's more of a life coach, a spiritual guru. You don't see him too often. He's a type of guy you can see once every couple months. And I get so much out of it. I've seen him 3 or 4 times. And the first time I saw him, it was when I was in the real thick of it. Things weren't going well in my relationship. I fled from that, a girl I was with for 7 years, and was in a really dark place. Coming out of that, my business had gone from doing amazing to potentially closing doors, and I wasn't eating right. I wasn't living a healthy lifestyle. So I had seen him, and he just kind of planted this seed in my brain. And he said, I think you're going to find yourself on a sober path soon. And that night, I had a spiritual awakening in my dreams, and we can talk more about that, but I woke up and just everything just seemed clear to me. And from that day forward, I found myself living a sober lifestyle, and it's been amazing.
I love that story. So we'll talk about that maybe in your most woo-woo moment.
Yeah.
Oh, yay. I can't wait to hear that story. Well, I really admire you because you're young, you're in LA, you're in this like fast-paced kind of fun business with all these, people that are like, you know what I mean? And it's hard. It's not easy to, but are you finding that more young people are becoming sober and not as interested in all the partying?
Well, like you said, LA is a very tough place to be sober, I think, as a young guy, especially in a role where my job's to network and to go out and meet people.
Right.
It was really, really hard for me early on. And, now I'm a lot more comfortable with my sobriety, and I wear it on my sleeve. I let people know that I'm sober, and I definitely see that it's inspired and helped others around me get sober. Even some of the people at my company, go a month or a few weeks sober because they see the change that it had on me. Our company completely changed once my mind changed.
Because you're the leader of it.
Yeah. Once I got sober, I started to show up, and showing up really is half the battle. But you just have this light about you, I think, and you're really engaged when you're talking to others, and you can remember conversations, and you can really... see someone a couple of weeks later, and you can recall things that you talked about that most people, when you're going out, just simply don't. So
right, that is so true. And so let's talk about some of these things that you do, because you're all about community, and you are involved with some great organizations. One is Teen Cancer America, and the other is Heal the Bay. So how did you get involved with those two?
Yeah, my mom actually started Teen Cancer America. She's the chairman. She started it with the Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend of The Who.
Oh, wonderful. I need to interview your mom.
Yeah, you do. She's got a great podcast also.
Yes, that's right. She has a podcast.
Say It Forward.
Say It Forward. Yes.
Roger and Pete were involved in Teenage Cancer Trust, which was based in the UK, with a focus on building teen cancer treatment centers, because most cancer people think of as either really young or older people in their 60s and 70s, and there was really no focus or specialization on the teenage group. And teens are in such an important part of their life, and they need to connect with other people their age. They still need to have fun, and that's their mission. And they brought it over the pond and started it here in the US, and they've raised, I think, over $50 million. They've opened a few different treatment centers, so definitely making a positive impact. And King Tide's been involved since the beginning, and I personally do as much as I can to help them through fundraising or event sponsorships, and it's a lot of fun, getting out there.
That's great. And then Heal the Bay, you guys go clean up the beaches. I know that you do that, and with team events or whatever.
Sure. We like to do that once a quarter. That really just started as us going out to Santa Monica Beach and Venice and picking up trash. And Heal the Bay was out there one day and saw us doing it, said we should join up, and we've been doing it with Heal the Bay ever since. It's a lot of fun. And
you make it like a team day where you go out there, you help clean up the beach, and then you go do something.
Yeah, get some tacos. have some fun.
I love that. And then, okay, let's talk about some of the other things you're doing. Very different. There's one organization you're involved with, and it's called Fuck Up Nights.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that. What is that?
Yeah, Fuck Up Nights was started in Mexico City by 5 guys sitting around the table drinking mezcal, sharing stories of their professional failure. And what was just a fun night turned into a global movement. And it's amazing what they've been able to do. They're in 80 plus countries,
really?
over 1,000 cities now. And we took over the LA chapter, if you will. Our CTO, James, who I mentioned, spearheaded that. And every month we host an event where 3 to 4 entrepreneurs come using 10 images on their slides, share a story of a professional failure, and then we open it up for Q&A. And it's so much fun because learning from failure is the best thing you can do. You know, a lot of people like to hide their failure, but, you know, if you don't go through it, you aren't really where you can be to become successful. So trying to learn from the mistakes of others too.
Yeah, learning from mistakes and learning when to hold them and when to fold them. You know what I mean? It's like when to keep going and when to say, okay, I'm going to drop this and I'm going to move on to something new, you
Absolutely.
know? So I think that's so inspiring and so fun. I love it. When is your next one? Aren't you having one coming up?
Yeah, probably be the third. It's usually the third Wednesday or Thursday of the month.
Okay.
So November, 20th or so.
Okay, cool. And then the other one, you have a bowling league that you created for the team, and you call it Rolling Balls.
Yeah. On Instagram, it's at We Roll Balls. We started it to bring people together to have some fun. I really do believe bowling is one of the most therapeutic and fun things people can do.
It is.
There's nothing like seeing the smile on someone's face after they bowl a strike.
Right.
Honestly, you can be in the worst mood ever, but if you bowl a strike, I guarantee you're going to smile.
You're going to smile and go, yeah.
Yeah. And we've been able to bring some pretty cool people together. We do it at Bolero in Mar Vista, which is near Venice. And you can check out at We Roll Balls. And if you're interested, come out and join us.
I need to talk to you after this about, I'm involved with the Cancer Fund, the Ronnie James Dio Stand Up and Shout Cancer Fund. And we have a bowling event coming up in couple weeks.
Nice.
And we have a bowling event every year. It's a rock and bowl. Although all these rock stars get together and they bowl, and it's a party and it's great. I would love to have We Roll Balls there.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'd love to.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
We're in our
after
off season, so it's good timing.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's talk just a little bit more about you, and I'm going to ask you all the questions I ask all my guests. So besides being sober, how do you stay of sound mind and body in your life?
Yeah, I think it starts with, awareness and really looking at yourself every day and trying to tap into that inner self. And I do that through meditation in the morning. I try and spend 5 to 10 minutes. I use the app Calm. My rule is to try and meditate 10 minutes before sending or looking at my emails, which was a good rule I learned from a mentor of mine. And, even if you can't get 5 to 10 minutes in, taking some deep breaths. I love to also run. So I do half marathons and 10Ks regularly. So I love to run. The runner's high is something like, nothing else. And, really helping others. I go to meetings 3 or 4 times a week with a group called How It Works Group in Westwood. It's part of my sobriety, and there I get to connect with other sober people and, just try and show up for them.
So How It Works, what is that? So it's it's just about being sober, or is it,
It's an open format meeting. It's a branch, I guess, of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay. And
it's amazing. It really focuses on the mental illness. It's really the thinking, not the drinking.
Yes.
So a lot of AA meetings are closed meetings for alcoholics only. This is really for, people who want to
just don't want to drink as much anymore.
Don't want to drink as much, want to be more mindful, and want to focus on, diminishing their ego and helping others.
I like that. So it's How It Works. We'll put a link to that too, maybe.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So what's a favorite sound of yours?
It's got to be the crack of a baseball bat when a home run's hit.
Okay, yes, you're a huge Dodger fan here.
Yeah, and that could be a wooden or metal bat. Just when that baseball
really
hits the bat, I just, it's my favorite sound.
Oh, nice. I love it.
Go Dodgers.
I know. Our producer, Tim, loves that too. Favorite memory?
Yeah, my favorite memory, honestly, and it's hard to tie this again back to baseball, but it's going with my family out to baseball games. It's such a part of my life, and I have 3 older brothers. My dad and I still play softball every Sunday. So
that's so great.
The 5 of us make up more than half a baseball team.
Yeah, that is awesome. Okay, so favorite place?
My favorite place is probably the beach. I love to go out to the beach with my mom, and I know it's her favorite place. It's where my mom's, a really hardworking person also, and seeing her in her element when she's at the beach is my favorite thing. So I love to spend some time with her on the water.
Oh, I love that. What a good son. Okay, so final question. What's the most woo-woo thing you've ever done?
Yeah. Like I was saying before, I was seeing this spiritual guru and having a spiritual awakening one night. I was very excited to meet this guy. I'd never met him. I'd heard amazing things. And I went in and I sat on his couch, and he started asking me these questions, and he touched my body like just while I was breathing, and could sense so much about my life and upbringing that I didn't even have to put in words.
Wow.
He knew the way that I was born. He knew that I was the youngest of a few other brothers. It was all stuff I hadn't mentioned to him, and he could just read from my body. And he really got to the heart of some issues that I wasn't even planning on bringing up. Like when I had lost one of my closest friends in a really tragic car accident. The reason I was born was because my grandmother had passed away, and my mom, I kind of filled that void for her in a way.
Oh, wow.
And it all lived inside me, and he had me do these breathing exercises, and by the end of it, I was just awakened, and I felt 10 pounds lighter, and I felt clear-headed. And that night, I went out to the beach, and I slept on the beach, and
you did.
I just heard these waves crashing in my dreams, and it turned into this amazing, vivid dream that I'd never experienced before, of my entire life kind of unfolding. And, during that, I really saw myself from this outside perspective, and I saw myself grow up through that. And when I woke up, I just wrote everything I could down, and I'd never word vomited a dream out like that before, but it was just so vivid that in like less than 2 minutes, I'd told this story, which I called Toy Soldiers. It's on my Medium. It was my first blog ever, which got me into writing. And, ever since that day, I've been on that spiritual path and lived a sober life. So that was my woo-woo moment. And
oh my gosh, we have to go and read the story now on Medium.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some spelling and grammar mistakes because I wrote it in like 2 minutes, but
oh, that's okay.
It's it was crazy.
That is really amazing.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read that. and I didn't really realize you were kind of spiritual and woo-woo, Jordan.
Yeah.
I think that's great. So is there anything else you want to tell any of the listeners about, what you're trying to build and how you're trying to, for me personally, this is very, I feel very positive when I know that there are young entrepreneurs like you in the world.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I have a lot of friends that are trying to start their own businesses or are growing their businesses, and we talk regularly, and some of them come to me for advice. And that's my favorite thing. Like I said, outside of King Tide and what we do professionally, I spend so much time personally working with friends and helping them launch their business. And my main advice is, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you really just can't say no. You can't give up. You will go through hard times. I guarantee it. And especially if you're in your 20s. Your 20s are hard. They're a lot of fun, but especially as an entrepreneur, but I think everyone, that's really where you figure out who you are. And for me, it wasn't even until these past 2 years where I think I've started to understand and love who I am. So, you got to go through those dark times to get to the other end. Just keep going. Keep going.
I love it. Great advice. Thank you, Jordan, for being with us today.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Well, that's it for this episode. And I don't know about you, but I hear so many negative remarks about millennials. Oh, millennials are entitled. Millennials do this, millennials. But I personally am so inspired by millennials like Jordan, like my son, and all of his friends, and all the ones that I happen to know, and what the world that they are creating. I'm so inspired by them. I admire them, and it makes me feel great about the future. So what do you guys think? Let me know. Send me a voice memo or email to soundmindbodypodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening. And please subscribe if you haven't already. You can do that on our website under the subscribe tab. Just select your favorite listening platform and subscribe. And while you're at it, you can join our woo-woo community too. Just enter your email on the homepage of our website and you'll start to receive an email every Monday with the latest episode along with special announcements and other news. And I do have some things planned coming up, so join us and don't miss out. If you like the podcast, we would really appreciate it if you give us a review on iTunes. It really helps new listeners find us. Thank you to our producer, Tim Edwards, in the Inbound Podcasting Network. And thank you to our guest, Jordan Rothstein. Get in touch and join the conversation. We're on Instagram at Sound Mind Body Podcast, or find us on Facebook, YouTube, or the web. Search for Sound Mind and Body Podcast. I'm Sheila Melody. Join us next week as we explore, enlighten, and evolve.